Chapter 38 The Fifth Circle of the Underworld. The Alchemical Transmutation. Upon the descent into the fifth circle of the underworld, the dragon released a cloud of fire. Now its source of heat grew like I'd never known, and it began to pour out into the much smaller cavern. Whenever the dragon needed a breath, it would bite its own tail to feel pain before it would screech and roar. It guarded the entrance to the lower levels of the underworld to make sure we could not go any lower. What are we doing here?
In order to heal the sick organisms of the world, we must lead the divine sparks of light, the spiritual gold, through the 7 planetary spheres of the cosmos back to their heavenly home. The outermost sphere of Saturn corresponds to the tainted garment of the soul, the grossest material, which is lead. Passing through this sphere means death and the putrefaction of the matter that is necessary for the transformation. To ease this passage through the 7 gates of the planetary demons, gnosis, the knowledge of magical practices, is required. Corresponding to the 3 divisions of the small world of man, which is the microcosm into body, mind, and spirit, is a cosmic soul which dwells in the realm of the stars. This cosmic soul reflects the ideas of the higher, transcendental sphere of the divine intellect, and through the influence of the stars, these ideas imprint their eternal symbols on the lower, physical, transient sphere. Man thereby has the possibility of manipulating events in the earthly sphere, using magical practices such as the manufacturing of talismans, spells, and other such things to affect this middle sphere of the cosmic soul. Contrast is established through the finer material of the sidereal or astral body that invisibly surrounds man. Before the fall, the whole heaven was a single human being of fine material, the primordial atom, who is now in every human being, and who is waiting to be brought to heaven. Man can communicate with this macrocosm through this sidereal medium, and thus receives premonitions and prophecies. The equivalent in man of the demiurgic, world-creating urge of the outer stars is the creative capacity of the imagination, which is the inner star. Imagination is not to be confused with fantasy. If someone really possesses these inner ideas, then he or she could draw their whole life from them and create artwork after artwork without ever reaching an end. The imagination is like a magnet, with its power of attraction, draws the things of the external world within man to reshape them there. Its activity is thus captured in the image of the inner alchemist, the sculptor, or the blacksmith. It is crucial to master them, for what man thinks is what he or she is. If he or she thinks they are fire, then they are a fire,
said the fairy. But what's happening?
The fire's here. Are you ready for the fire? Don't let the heat bother you. We live in this heat, even if it burns us alive. We were born for the heat. We're right where we're supposed to be. Flames don't intimidate us. The fire is going to set us free,
said the fairy. What do we do?
Control the flame. Remove the flame. Because when you rise out from this cavern, you won't be the same. We'll have changed, and everything that isn't truth will be burned away. The light within me is the fire within you. Enter into the flames. Only then will we embody what is true. We are called to change, because nothing stays the same. Don't fear this fire. This fire is every alchemist's aim.
But the dragon won't let me through.
Good,
said the fairy. But that's a major issue. This is becoming an impossible set of problems.
Good. Looks like we've got an opportunity to solve them,
said the fairy. But this has all gone wrong. I feel like it can't get any worse.
Good. Because when things are going bad, there's going to be something good that's going to come from it. Can't get through? Good. Find a way. Maybe the fire makes you feel afraid. Good. Then you'll create a new way. And what? Maybe your mind can't fathom how you'll get through this? Good. We'll use the imagination to find a path that the dragon could have never planned for us to escape it. Or maybe your body is falling apart. Maybe you're starting to lose your mind. Good. Sounds like we'll rely on the spirit to discover what we're meant to find. What? You think this looks like an unexpected set of problems? Good. We've got an opportunity to find a solution. When things are going bad, don't get startled or frustrated. From now on, you better say the word good. It means you're still alive. It means you're still breathing. Then you've got some fight in you. Get up, dust off, and face the fire's attack,
said the fairy. But how the hell can I do that when I'm face to face with a giant dragon and I have to cage him, not attack?
I hope you heal so deeply that you no longer feel the need to make sense of what happened,
said the fairy. This dragon was furious. Satan was no longer in a mood to talk or discuss. Now the fire was directed at my body, while the fairy and I hid behind a rock. We're going to get scorched alive until we die,
Good,
said the fairy.
In reference to the divine work of creation and the plan of salvation within it, the alchemical process is called the Great Work. In it, a mysterious chaotic source material is called materia prima, containing opposites still incompatible and in the most violent conflict, which gradually is guided towards a redeemed state of perfect harmony. This is the healing of the Philosopher's Stone, or lapis philosorium. First we bring together, then we putrefy. We break down what has been putrefied. We purify the divide. We unite the purified and harden it. In this way, man and woman is made one. Then we are whole,
said the golden fairy. As I tried to breathe, it seemed that even my air was running out. It became so hot in here that there was no way out. The top was sealed, and now the rock itself had melted, which trapped us in this crucible. The only way forward was to endure the fire and embrace it, which was unpredictable and mercurial.
It ascends, says Hermes Trismegistus in his emerald tablets, from heaven to earth, by which words the circulating distillation is most beautifully explained, as also this, that the chemical vessel is made in the same way as the natural vessel of earth and life. For we see that the whole heavens and the elements are like a sphere which is round and sweet in nature, in whose midpoint or innermost essence is the heat of the subterranean fire, which is very strong and powerful, and this drives the more subtle matter of the elements upwards into the air, and at the same time rises upwards itself,
said the fairy. Where should we go? Before long, we will not be able to hide.
Go nowhere, but allow our lower nature to die. We are in the oven of the philosopher's heart, and we are seated in a constant and ever-changing prison, which should be quite transparent, light, and clear like a crystal, and round like a celestial sphere. But this heaven of yours must be kept safe with the triple oven, so that not more than a single entrance is guarded. For the celestial city will be besieged by earthly enemies. It is necessary for our crucible to be round in shape, so that the artist may transform the firmament and the top of the skull. The Philosopher's Stone is made in the image of the creation of our world, for one must have its chaos and its prime matter, in which the elements float here and there, all mixed together, until they are separated by the fiery spirit. And when this has happened, the light is lifted up, while the heavy is brought downwards,
said the fairy. But this stone, this lapis, if it is this stone we are looking for, then where can we find it? The dragon's fire melted the rocks within the cavern sheltering us, and so it was only a matter of time until I too would burn. I felt the heat rising through my spine as a chemical reaction began to transform.
The material spirit is extracted from this. The legendary Azoth comes as the agent of the work, in the form of a white dove. Like the doves that Noah sent forth to learn whether the waters had abated, it only ends its flight when the lapis is finally found. The flight is 27-fold, upwards and downwards, and can be related in the illustrations in William Blake's mythology. Only the 28th brings enlightenment and an escape from the retort's restricted field of vision. It is destroyed when the lapis is complete. The first emblem of the lapis is the crescent moon. Normal gold is pictured as a lion and must be twice driven by antimony, which is used as lead, in order to lose its impurities. The dragon is the philosophical quicksilver, or mercury. Second, the alchemist assures himself or herself of God's presence in the great work. Third, chaos. Fourth, the coat of arms of the lapis. Fifth, the four elements are introduced. Sixth, the chamois represents spirit and soul, which unite to form philosophical mercury. Seventh, the 6 planets embody the metals to which the bird Mercury is related. The locked trunk says that the path to this quicksilver is hidden. 8. The inner circles are the 4 elements, which form the basic materials of the 7 metals. 9. Sulfur, or sun, and Mercury, moon, are the male and female aspects. 10. Through contact with the moon and sun, philosophical Mercury attains the power of fertilizing the earth. 11. Sulfur and Mercury must be freed by fire from the material which contains them. 12. Purification of philosophical Mercury by sublimation. 13. The philosophical Mercury is joined once more to its sulfur so that a homogeneous liquid is produced. 14. The lion, or gold, is purified by mixture with antimony, lead, as the wolf. 15. This is then transformed by dissolution into philosophical sulfur. 16 is the oven. 17. The retort in which sulfur and mercury are united. 18. Philosophical quicksilver consists of liquid, mercurial components, azoth, which is the dove, and solid sulfurous parts, or latina. The bird is the mercurial spirit that carries out the great work. 19 through 21 is the state of putrefaction. Here the 4 elements separate and the soul emerges from the body. The ascending bird represents the distillation of philosophical mercury. The descending bird indicates that the distillate must be repeatedly poured onto the physical residue. 22 through 23, there is the blackness of putrefaction and is purified by azoth, the dove of the living spirit, which is extracted from the quicksilver. 24 and 25 holds the putrefaction and is the gate to the conjunction, or sacred marriage. It is the key transmutation. The star indicates that the matter is self-enclosed, and that the seeds of the 7 metals lie within it. 26 and 27 is when the black material, or toad, turns white, if azoth, the dove, is poured on it again. With the application of great heat, it then yields all of its liquid components. 28 and 29. Under the effects of heat, the elements begin to form new layers of restratification. 30 through 33. The restratification of the elements in the crucible occurs, which is the formation of new layers by repeatedly extracting the mercurial spirit, then pouring it back. 34 through 36 is the 7th distillation, where the lapis attains its fiery nature. 37. The appearance of Apollo and Luna announces that the stone will soon have the capacity for transmutation. 38 through 41. In the 9th distillation of the philosophical mercury, the watery matter, followed by air, strive upwards. 42 through 45. In the 10th distillation and the subsequent moistening, the elements are divided in 2. The fiery nature of the lapis lowers itself to the ground, then water turns into clouds. 46 is the final sublimation of the lapis. Here it is represented as a pelican, said to bring its dead young, the base metals, back to life with its own blood. 47. The final solidification of the lapis, which arises as a phoenix in the flames. 48 through 49. The elements are united, and the great work is completed. 50 through 53. The more transparent and subtle the consistency of the lapis, the higher its penetrative capacities and greater its strength of color. In order to intensify this, further sublimations occur. It is now fertilized with philosophical mercury, the serpent, until the serpent has swallowed its own tail and the lapis is dissolved. 54 is the dissolution of the lapis, and the repeated distillations happen in 55 and more subsequent moistening in 56, which lead to its final resolidification in 57. 58 is when Azoth, or the dove of the spirit, is poured on once more, and the intensity of the fire is raised in 59 and 60. In 61, the soul must be sweated out. 62 through 65, we see that the lapis must be burned strongly for a long time. 67 through 69 is when the mass is moistened again, because the more often the stone is distilled, the greater its capacity to penetrate and to color. 70 through 74 is the torture by fire, lasting several days, where the stone now matures to its perfection and resurrection. 75 through 78, we as the result say, after much suffering and torment, I was resurrected large, pure, and immaculate. Spirit and soul have now completely penetrated the body. Father and Son are united. Transience and death have lost all their power,
said the golden fairy. The flame had come upon us, and we had been melted like wax. I could hear all that the fairy had said, but by the power and potency of such a dragon's fire, we had dissolved the body where I collapsed. Now living without a body, I bet you would think I was dead. But I was not trapped, so I hovered in this cave, and this time I began to move quite freely instead. Why, I was not led. I was more like a serpent or dove. I could go wherever I wished, because the awareness that I lived through was the embodiment of pure and perfect love. This fire was fierce, but I had no reason to fear it. The world is a living organism, an infinite living being, which contains all living things within it. I think I may have been that golden fairy, which I could not quite understand until now. I was always in search of my own true nature, and I seemed to lose it long ago. So when it comes to overcoming negative situations, our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding of our intention or our dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The secret to the art unknown of turning obstacles upside down is to act with the reverse clause, so there is always a way out or another route to get where you need to go, so that setbacks or problems are always expected and never permanent, making certain that what impedes us can empower us. There are a few things to keep in mind when faced with a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. We must try to be objective, to control emotions and to keep them even-keeled, to choose to see the good in a situation, to steady our nerves, to ignore what disturbs or limits others, to place things in perspective, to revert to the present moment, to focus on what can be controlled. This is how you see opportunity within the obstacle. It does not happen on its own. It is a process, one that results from self-discipline and logic. And that logic is available to you. You just need to employ it. Now the fire began to simmer, but that ancient dragon was so tired it looked as if it needed a nap. There it closed its eyes and fell back. But who was I? I was you and me, all of it together, ever free. And without anything to hold us back, I wanted to go lower, in search of the hidden kingdom. My intuition was aware of a very secret treasure, so I dug through the ground for there was nowhere we could not go. We looked through the world, for the new world was coming to grow.